400 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle lies the Prudhoe Bay oil field, the largest field yet found in North America. The discovery of this oil in 1968 changed Alaska forever. 1.5 million barrels of oil a day flow south through the Alaska wilderness to the ice-free port of Valdez. Tankers carried the crude oil to refineries in the energy-hungry lower 48 states.
Assurance that he will catch up to you in time.
Glacier Bay, roger that.
The state of Alaska received the equivalent of 1 barrel in 8 from this petroleum bonanza. As world oil prices climb, the state becomes richer. Alaska received almost $4 billion in oil revenue in 1981. Oil brought jobs as well as money. During the 1970s, people flocked to Alaska. The city of Anchorage absorbed much of the growth. Ron and Patricia Zobel moved to Anchorage in 1978 to work as attorneys. They became friends with attorney Mark Sandberg and his wife Kate. The Zobels and the Sandbergs, like hundreds of thousands before them, viewed Alaska as a land of opportunity. Old-timers like Clem Tillian referred to them as Chichakos, newcomers. As the population grew, the need for government services increased, and the state bureaucracy mushroomed. Many Alaskans feared a day when the oil wells would run dry and the state could no longer afford these expensive government services. In 1976, a so-called permanent fund was created to assure that money would remain after the oil was gone. Every year, the state must deposit at least 25% of its annual proceeds from mineral leases, royalties, and bonuses into this fund. Interest from the fund is used to finance government programs. As the fund increased, Governor Jay Hammond began to grow alarmed at the prospect of continuous government expansion.
As governor of Alaska, it was my that when oil wealth became available to the state of Alaska, that the people themselves, the little guy, experienced some direct benefit from that wealth rather than it flowing selectively to various interest groups.
The Alaska legislature voted to distribute interest from the permanent fund in the form of dividend payments to Alaskans on the basis of how long they had lived in the state. It was a popular idea, but the Zobels felt it unfairly discriminated against new residents. Old-timers believed that a distribution based on length of residency was not only fair, but also necessary to prevent a flood of newcomers. The Zobels felt that this plan violated their constitutional right to equal treatment under the law, as guaranteed by the 14th Amendment.
The legislature passes a statute. They pass something that they feel that the majority of people want. And in this case, it's probably true. The majority of the people wanted to have money given out to them, whether they deserved it, whether they needed it, or whether they had any right to have it. It was a popular thing to do. Well, in doing so, they have trampled upon individuals, people who have just arrived in this state.
On the day that this statute was passed, I felt like less than a complete citizen. The state of Alaska was saying to myself and to my wife and to everybody else that was in a similar situation, you don't quite count as much as people who have lived here for a long time. You're not quite the citizen those other people are.
And if you individually feel that you have a right that needs to be vindicated, the court is the place that you do it. We no longer have people meeting at the OK Corral to gun it out as a way of deciding their differences. Instead, we go to court and litigate it.
My name is Tom Williams. I'm the defendant in this case. The reason I'm the defendant is because I'm the official who's responsible for administering the permanent fund dividend program. When the Zobels sued, they wanted to have an injunction against the program to keep the checks from going out until a decision could be rendered. In order to get that injunction, they needed to name an individual as well as the state. So I'm that individual, and that's why the case is called Zobel versus Williams.
The Superior Court for Alaska's 3rd Judicial District agreed with the Zobels and declared the distribution plan unconstitutional. The state appealed to the Alaska Supreme Court. the highest court in the state system. Avram Gross argued on behalf of the state.
Extremely novel, and they're the first time this method has been tried. It's an experiment. If the people feel no link to the resources, if they feel they got no direct benefits from them, they have no real interest, I think, and the past has shown this. This is a mechanism for making people think of it as theirs. And if the legislature wants to take it back through the mechanism of taxing people, or cutting down the permanent fund dividends, or not putting money in the permanent fund, it can do that all right. But that's a major political choice. My time is up.
The Supreme Court proceedings were televised live throughout the state. Alaskans watched as Mark Sandberg rose to present the Zobel's case.
If the Attorney General doesn't know the difference between $50 and $1,050, the man on the street does. It's an inescapable fact. Alaskans are being treated unequally, and they're being treated unequally for no reason other than the duration of their residency. The idea...
What I want to know is there anything wrong with that?
There most assuredly is. I mean, the state could not seriously contend that it could give everybody $1 for every day since the last time they said something nasty about Governor Hammond. And that's exactly the kind of a program we've got here. Ron and Penny Zobel's benefits accrue from the moment they exercise their constitutional rights, and they get less than I do because I exercised mine first.
The Zobels, in my opinion, are doing just exactly as all Alaskans and all Americans should do. They say what they want to. This is written in the Constitution, and I don't know why all the objection is to it. They have a perfectly legitimate right to say this. I may not agree with them, and a lot of Alaskans may not agree with them, but this is beside the case.
Yeah, I wish they hadn't done it, and I hope that the Supreme Court rules against them and the money does get into the hands of the citizens and let them spend it the way they like.
I don't see what I did to deserve money just by living here. So I don't think the state should give away the money. But I would spend it if I got my check.